Hey y'all, it's Jessica, Pretty Prince and Paper. It's been a while since I've done a video, but I am back with the other installment of my job search series. You might benefit from going back and looking at a couple of my other posts and videos, which are updates about how you bullet journal on the job. I include some spreads in there about how to keep track of some accomplishments that you have during your work, and then also the last post I did, which was job search and career search, which is starting with yourself, what you want in a job, the skills and gifts that you have, and then also who you are meeting with in connection to your job search. So this is the next piece where we talk about applications and job prep, interview thoughts. There are some spreads that I have in here. Mostly it's going to be me talking about my passion for career searching and some tips that I have. So we'll get started. I'm using my Erin Condren coil bound notebook, and then you'll see that I used a Crayola Super Tip, this Bic Triumph pen, it's a gel pen in 0.5, and then this Tombow gray pen in N60 for my highlights. Let's get started. So you're doing all this self-exploration and you're figuring out like, okay, now I know kind of what areas I'm looking for, and now I'm starting to apply for jobs. What now? Keep an application tracker. I know a couple people have been asking about, what do you track in an application tracker? You can do this in your bullet journal, you can do this in a Google spreadsheet or whatever is easier for you, but here are some things that came to mind when I think about tracking job applications. First, when did you apply? It's nice to know in the timeline when you submitted that application, the job in the company that you are applying for, and then a connection that you have to that company or that job. Again, it's not what you know, but not even who you know, but who knows you. So who are the connections that you have that you can talk to get more insights or further connection into that job? Materials, and what I mean by that is, do they require a resume, cover letter, presentation, portfolio? It's nice to kind of know what they have already seen. And then follow-ups and notes, because it's good to track along the way the communication that you've had, whether you've followed up or they've followed up, and getting comfortable with knowing when it is that you can circle back and ask about the process and where they're at with that. And then of course, page numbers for each individual spread that you might have for each of these jobs. Now, that being said, something that I highly recommend when you apply for jobs is when you have an online posting, right? They give you the full job description outlining the responsibilities. Please save that somewhere as a PDF in a folder. You can print it out and add it to your bullet journal if you want to, or copy it on the page if you like the analog versions better. It is important that you have that for reference, and I'll talk about that when I talk about resumes and cover letters in a second. Save those things. So this is one spread that you could have in your bullet journal. Now, a word about applications. Having done quite a few job searches, there's things that I highly recommend. So that folder thing I just talked about. Now, customization, and this is not going to be in your bullet journal, maybe not, but as you prepare your resume and cover letter, it will be critical that you reference that job description and customize your stuff to it. And what I mean by that is you go into the job description and you look at what it requires of you. First, what are the minimum qualifications? Making sure that you hit all of those things and make it easy for them to find in your cover letter. Your cover letter proves to HR that you have the minimum qualifications and then anything else beyond that. They are usually going to interview anybody who meets all the minimum qualifications, and you have to make it easy for them to find. And you're going to find that in the job description. Matching those things with the same or similar verbiage will be helpful for them in a language that they understand that you are indeed qualified for this job. And in your resume, making sure when you go through that you look at what the most relevant experiences are. In my resume, I usually have a section right away that's called relevant experience. So rather than limiting it to work experience or leadership or something, especially if you're coming out of school, I use relevant experiences, and then I can kind of combine them all into one place, especially if I haven't done a formal job related to the position, but I've done other work that's related to the position. I can highlight that. And within each of those, you have bullet points, right? Making sure that the top 2 bullet points of every single job matches what they're looking for in their position. Being someone who's reviewed applications before, I skim them in probably 20 seconds, and I know you've heard that before. So spending the time to make sure that you're highlighting what it is you want them to see. And so pulling from their job description, if they really focus a lot on things like curriculum development, of course I use a teaching example, then make sure that anything related to creating programs and curriculum development is highlighted right away. And making sure that in your resume, you're also including numbers and not just saying, facilitated a workshop for students. How many workshops? Is it, facilitated 6 trainings throughout the semester for 40 plus adjunct instructors, making sure that you give them a sense of magnitude of what your work is. And here's the other thing, connecting to the purpose. When you talk about these things in your bullet points, what always adds extra oomph for me is connecting it to the purpose. So facilitated 6 workshops to 40 plus adjunct instructors to create a strong leadership educator community, or to strengthen student experience in the classroom through experiential learning practices, right? So you're connecting to this larger picture that gives your task meaning, right? Whether that is maintaining high quality customer service to create some kind of positive experience, or creating a collaborative team environment. You have to connect to the purpose, and that's what takes a resume from okay to, oh wow, that's really thoughtful. So taking the time to do that. And then the references piece, don't just ask anybody to be your reference. Make sure that the people who are your references really can speak to the things that matter to the people looking at your application. And then when you reach out to your references, you should always reach out to your references, let them know that they're your reference, and then let them know what the job is. Send them an email that outlines the job description and then a couple key skills or characteristics that you want them to highlight. This makes it easier for your references to help you. So doing a little bit of that legwork carries you a long way. So that's what I have to say about the application piece. Customize, making sure that you are adding that purpose connection and then going from there. So you get the interview. Awesome. Now what? Well, going in, do your research. So I would start a spread or a page or whatever about that job and go in and research the hell out of it. You can always tell when a candidate does not know enough about the position. So making sure that you know exactly what that job function is, and then learning about how it connects to the rest of the team. So you go in and research things on Glassdoor, which is a great website that tells you a little bit about the interview process from other people who have interviewed there, doing one-to-ones and informational interviews with people that you know at this place, asking them questions that you cannot Google, getting some insight. At least know the stuff that you can Google, right? Showing that you have gone and at least done that minimum amount of reading so that you come in with some background knowledge, some context, and then that informs how you can interpret their questions and really know what it is that they're looking for. So looking at things like the current news, what are they doing? Looking at their competitors and what they're doing to get a sense of the field, and then where they've been. So understanding their history, how they started, or what have been key things that have happened with this company and then maybe this department or this particular group in the past, where they are now, and then the most important part is like where their future is. Sometimes people are hiring not to match what it is that they have currently, but what they are trying to achieve in the future. Maybe they're trying to change the culture. Maybe they're trying to change the direction. I know that for us, we're trying to get more into multicultural student engagement. So we want more people with that experience. So don't discount or think that you have to match exactly what it is that they're looking for to match what they already have. You might have something that they want going into the future, and that is worth knowing. And then, of course, the people. If you happen to know who is interviewing you, do a little bit of a LinkedIn search. Find out who these people are, because although you might know about the mission and the vision of the company itself, it really matters who is sitting at the table in front of you and what their vision and mission is as well. So coming in prepared, and then you know some baseline stuff to go off of. From the job description and your research, you want to prepare your stories. My friend Sujie, who I'm going to link in my blog post, she shares a little bit of insights as a recruiter for companies about looking at your stories, and that the first thing that people will often ask you is, walk us through your resume. That's where that customization really matters, because here's the story that you're about to tell them about you. Not in a list format, not in a cover letter bland format, but really adding the heart and the purpose and the passion to your story. They've already read your resume, maybe, but taking them through it in a way that creates meaning and connection between you and them. Going through and being able to pull out, this is why I got involved. Telling the why and the how. That's the part that you don't get to see on the resume. So being intentional about how you're going to tell them, I discovered this major when I was a first-year student and I saw this and it really made this come out alive in me. And so I knew that I wanted to get involved with blank and blank. So adding the little bit of heart that makes the stories come alive off of your resume. Some of the other questions that I know that people ask is, why this job and why now? So this is giving them context to your intention and interest in the job. And for example, when I was interviewing at the University of Minnesota, and frankly, everybody around the area wants to work at the University of Minnesota. So what was going to make me different? Yes, I'm an alum. Yes, I'm connected. But why this job? Or in my particular case, why these students? Why these clients? So that's where the informational interviews are so powerful, because you get an insight into that culture, into the students, into the clients that you're working with, the audience. And then you're able to really say with expertise and some backing that you want to work with those people, that you have gifts and skills that match up to working in this kind of environment or with this kind of team or in this field. So adding that piece in. And then of course the now, especially if you're leaving a job or you're transitioning into a job, maybe you're ready for a change, or you've developed an interest in this, or you've maximized your skills in this area and now you're looking for an opportunity to develop or hone skills in another area, and that's why this job. So having that compelling why will set you apart from other people who are going to give maybe a more list answer, okay? Again, adding that purpose, passion, and personality, that's something that you cannot capture on paper. So use that opportunity to bring that out. And then being able to cherry pick the stories. So in my last video, I talked about keeping a log of all your stories, and not even accomplishments necessarily, but moments that you're really proud of. Go through those stories and then match it up with their job description. If the job description is really asking for collaboration and teamwork, find the stories that really illustrate that, and making sure that you have them dusted off in your back pocket, ready to go. If you bring your bullet journal, absolutely have some notes. That's not unprofessional at all. Actually, it looks really legit, right? Like you came prepared, I got my stuff. So bring that out, jot down a couple key stories, remembering to go through the STAR method. I talked about that in my last video, and cherry picking the ones that will really highlight what they're looking for. Last thing on here, questions. I am always impressed, or I look at the level of questions that people have, and that tells a lot to me. So some of the things that I want you to think about as you come up with questions going into the interview is things that are not Googleable. It's weird when people are asking questions about the job or about the company that really you could have looked that up beforehand. So that's why this research piece is so important, because that will create really nuanced questions, right? So you're asking a couple questions. I like to ask 4 different kinds of questions when I go into an interview, which is about the job and the role. And I'm not just talking about specifics about that job, because you got that job description. I'm talking about, what does it look like to be successful in this role in a year? What are you looking for in a successful candidate in this job? How does this job role connect to other people on the team? Things that are a little bit more nuanced, right? So, given the nature of this particular responsibility, how does that connect to other people on the marketing team? You know, so getting in depth with some of those questions, if they matter to you, right? Questions about the field and the company. So again, going back to that research that you've done about the company, the current news and their competitors, you can position a question like, I notice that your competitor is pushing the envelope in this direction. Are you looking to go in a similar direction, or try to find another area or a gap that we want to fill separately from them? So again, showing that you have some knowledge about what's going on in the field. And then the other thing with the people in front of you, asking them questions about who they are and why they work there, or what they like about working there. And that gets to that heart, the culture piece that you can't really Google, especially if those people that are sitting across from you are on the team. If there are students there, if you have clients there at this meeting, at this interview, ask them what matters to them. If they're the ultimate user, ask them what matters to them. And I think that signals something meaningful, right? When we have students in an interview, they really care that the professionals that we interview ask them questions, because we're supposed to be serving students, right? So making sure that you ask those key stakeholders what matters to them and how you can serve them in that role, right? So it's, again, taking it to this next level that really shows the passion and the connection between these pieces. And then the other questions are technical, like what are the next steps, or when will you follow up, things like that, for your technical peace of mind. And then as you go through in this interview, you're jotting down their names so that you, if you didn't know them before, you know them now, so that you can send them all a thank you. And when I say send them all a thank you, send them all a thank you. It's nice that you send it to like the hiring chair, but maybe that's just me and I go all out, right? And I send a handwritten note to everybody who was there or part of my experience. And if you know that you are one of the first interviews, then go ahead and do a written thank you. If you know that you're one of their last interviews, go ahead and do an email thank you, because you want to make sure that you get them that gratitude before they make decisions about you and about the rest of the process. So that's what I would suggest about a thank you, and be specific. We all know when we get a generic thank you or a generic happy birthday card in the mail, try to pull in some things like this interesting connection point that we had, or something that you really resonated with that they said. So something that tells them that you paid attention, that something stood out to you in your thank you card. That's a nice little touchback, right? So that they can be like, oh, wow, right. Yes, absolutely. Connection. Because it's kind of like dating, okay? Like, you're not just going to answer things, and which gets me back to my last bit. As you prep, job searching is hard, because for me it is a lot like dating. And you want to cast a wide net, but you don't want just anything most of the time. So thinking about your why, it has to be a good fit for you too. Like, it doesn't matter if you get a job if you're just so not right for it, and it feels bad eventually, where you know you don't fit into a culture or a role, or it disappoints you in some way. So knowing what your why is going to be super important. And it all connects to this idea of authenticity, right? Like, you want to put out who you are, a best version of who you are, but knowing what you have and also what you don't have, so that you guys can both make a decision about what will be the best fit for this role. You want it to be a good fit. And that's why all the questions about culture and why it's important to do that pre-work that I talk about in my last video about your values and what you care about in a job. If you care about variety and taking on a whole different group of projects, you're not going to want to be in a job that only works on one tedious thing all the time. Knowing those things going in and knowing who you are, why you are, things you're looking for, are going to help you get there. This piece about clothing, business casual. I have a lot of feelings about professionalism and what it means to be professional and how that interfaces with who you are. And I want to say, find permission in yourself to maybe not wear a suit if you don't want to wear a suit. Unless that is the absolute culture of that company and you match it and you feel comfortable and you feel yourself in that kind of outfit, okay, that's cool. But it took me a long time to give myself permission to wear things that I wanted to wear. Still nice looking, still polished looking, but way more comfortable, so that I felt like I could be who I am in an interview. And for them to get a sense of who I am through that as well, because, suits all kind of start to look the same after a while. And also I feel so limited when I wear a suit. So do some research in that way as well to find out what is nice and put together, and is it really being in a suit? And that's something to take into consideration as well, because again, that authenticity piece. And it's really hard because you feel like I am supposed to wear a suit. I am supposed to have a padfolio, or I am supposed to give these certain answers. But if it's part of who you are, really think about that. Do you want to work for a company that does not also respect and honor that? And that is a lot harder than I'm making it sound, because it means that you have to hold steady. You have to be uncomfortable thinking, wow, what are they thinking about this right now? They're going to see you and think that's what they're getting. And hopefully that is freeing enough for you to know that at least you put yourself out there. And I wrote about this also in my last post, why being yourself is so hard. This is a case where so many expectations play out, and it's so hard to show up as completely yourself in your humor, in jokes that you might want to tell, but try to find ways to let that show up, because we're looking for people who aren't cookie cutter, right? Finding places where you fit and can come alive with the strengths that you have, that's what you're looking for. So I hope that you find permission in yourself to own that and get that. That's all I got. I hope that if you find this valuable, you can like it, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, or share it with some friends. But most of all, I hope that you enjoy it. I will see you in my next video. Bye.